The impact of social media on young people has been elevated to a national issue of concern, and rightly so. Both the Prime Minister and the opposition leader have committed to some form of regulation to minimise the harms these digital platforms are having on children. This was really kicked off in South Australia by Peter Malinauskas. He is the Premier and he joins me live now. Thanks so much for your time. Good to see you. First of all, we now have, basic agreement that something needs to be done here. Everyone's kind of got a different path. I think you would even admit, Premier, that you can't do it alone. There's a lot of federal rules that are required here. Peter Dutton yesterday said, you know what, the best way to hit these social media companies, if they don't do this on their own, is to tax them more. Do you agree?
Well, look, we're just interested in getting an outcome, and the outcome that I'm advocating for is a ban on social media for children 14 and under, and then if you're 14 or 15, you should actually require parental consent. Now, the path that we use to get there, I'm pretty agnostic about. Ultimately, I think, Laura, the imposition has got to be on the social media giants themselves.
Yeah.
We've obviously got the former Chief Justice of the High Court, Robert French, to provide the state government advice on how we can use our powers to achieve those ends. But let me be frank about it, as you know, I've said this from the start, there are going to be challenges here for states doing this, but up until we started our advocacy, didn't feel like it was going anywhere. Now, I'm very grateful that the Prime Minister is leading the charge in terms of the federal level. It's great to have Peter Dutton supporting that effort as well. I do think there's a degree of urgency here, Laura. I think it would be a great shame that we've got all this momentum publicly now and politically, if that doesn't translate to an outcome, hopefully this year. I don't want to be sitting around waiting years to resolve this. So. But I'm optimistic that there is a path here, particularly if we have states working collaboratively with the federal government.
Yeah, OK. Well, what about the age? How did you land at 14? Peter Dutton saying 16, the federal government hasn't made up its mind. Are you flexible in all of that? How did you reach 14?
To be honest, we just used the precedent that seems to be being set in the United States. The Florida Governor, Ron DeSantis, has signed into law a ban that is for children under the age of 14 and then parental consent for 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds. We think that makes sense, but of course it doesn't represent the only path forward. I would be certainly open-minded to something that's higher than that. I certainly don't think it should be under 14. We're talking about young people, probably one of the most critical points of social development as they approach adulthood, and they're particularly vulnerable in that cohort. If there's any particular science that presents itself that suggests 16 should be the absolute number rather than a parental consent arrangement for 14 and 15-year-olds, we're open-minded to that. But, we just wanted to get out there and advocate a change, and at the very least, I think 14 should be the minimum.